In the winter of 1950, Boston was a city built on routine. Every morning, the same trucks rolled through the same streets. The same guards punched in at the same time. The same vault doors opened and closed with mechanical confidence. And no company trusted routine more than Brink's. Brink's wasn't just another security company. It was the most respected armored transport service in America. Banks trusted it. Businesses depended on it. Millions of dollars passed through its hands every week. To the public, Brink's was untouchable. But to a small group of men watching from the shadows, Brink's was predictable. And predictability is dangerous. What no one knew at the time was that the most famous robbery in American history didn't begin in 1950. It began almost 2 years earlier with quiet observation, careful patience, and men who knew how to wait. These men were not celebrities. They weren't known criminals. They blended in perfectly with post-war America. They worked regular jobs. They lived modest lives, and that was exactly what made them invisible. They studied Brink's guards without being seen. They memorized schedules. They learned which doors were used most often, which alarms were trusted blindly, and which locks had not been changed in years. They discovered something shocking. Brink's relied more on habit than security. The men followed delivery routes. They watched guards relax after long shifts. They noticed how confidence slowly replaced caution. Every detail was recorded mentally. Nothing was rushed. This wasn't a robbery fueled by desperation. It was a robbery fueled by patience. By late 1949, the plan was complete. On the night of January 17, 1950, Boston was cold and quiet. Snow softened the sounds of the city. Inside the Brink's building on Prince Street, employees were finishing their evening routines. Everything felt normal. Too normal. Just before 7 p.m., several men approached the building wearing dark clothing, gloves, and exact replicas of Brink's uniforms. They didn't sneak. They didn't hide. They walked in, because they looked like they belonged there. Inside, the guards had no reason to be suspicious, until it was too late. In seconds, the robbers took control. Guards were restrained. Mouths were taped. Communication lines were cut. No alarm sounded. No gunshots echoed. The building fell silent. The men moved with calm precision. They knew exactly where the vault was. They knew exactly how long they had. When the vault door opened, what they saw inside was staggering. Cash. Checks. Money orders. More than $2.7 million. A fortune in 1950. They loaded the money into bags, secured everything carefully, and left the same way they entered, walking out calmly into the night. They vanished. By the time the guards were freed and police arrived, the crime was already history. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no suspects, no getaway vehicle scene. It was as if the robbers had never existed. The next morning, America woke up to headlines that felt unreal. Newspapers called it the perfect crime. Radio hosts questioned how such a thing was even possible. Brink's reputation was shaken overnight. But the most unsettling part? The robbers didn't celebrate. They didn't spend the money. They didn't disappear to luxury or fame. They waited. And while the public believed the crime was already over, the truth was far more terrifying. This robbery wasn't just about stealing money. It was about proving that the system could be beaten. And for the next 7 years, the men responsible would try to disappear into normal life, while the FBI quietly prepared to hunt them down. Because no matter how perfect a crime looks, time always leaves fingerprints. If this story surprised you, stay with it, because the silence after this robbery was far more dangerous than the robbery itself. Subscribe and watch the next part to see how these men stayed hidden for years, and why one small mistake changed everything. After the Brink's robbery, America expected chaos. Police expected panic. Reporters expected rumors. The public expected someone to spend the money. None of that happened. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. And nothing changed. No sudden purchases. No flashy lifestyles. No mysterious disappearances. The money stolen from Brink simply vanished, as if it had never existed at all. This silence terrified investigators. Because criminals don't usually stay quiet, the FBI launched a massive investigation. Hundreds of agents were assigned to the case. Every Brink's employee was questioned. Former workers, delivery drivers, maintenance staff, no one was ignored. The vault was re-examined again and again, searching for anything that had been missed. But the robbers had left behind almost nothing. No fingerprints, no fibers, no eyewitnesses. The men had worn gloves, moved calmly, and touched only what they needed to touch. Even the rope and tape used to restrain the guards offered no usable clues. It was as if the crime had been rehearsed 100 times. The public began to lose faith. Newspapers mocked law enforcement, calling the robbery unsolvable. Some even praised the criminals, describing them as brilliant planners who had beaten the system. But inside FBI headquarters, one man refused to give up. Agent Joseph F. O'Keefe believed something others ignored. He believed the robbers were still close, not hiding overseas, not living in luxury, living normally. He reviewed the case endlessly, focusing on psychology rather than evidence. These men had shown extreme discipline, and disciplined criminals don't run. They stay where they're comfortable. That idea changed everything. Instead of searching for new suspects, the FBI returned to old ones. Men with criminal histories, men connected to Brinks indirectly, men who had known each other for years. One name kept resurfacing quietly: Joseph Specs O'Keefe. He wasn't arrested, he wasn't charged, but he was watched. For years, as time passed, the robbers believed they were safe. The statute of limitations approached. The money remained hidden. Their patience seemed to be paying off. But silence has a weakness. It makes people careless, and eventually, one man talked when he shouldn't have. In the next part, you'll see how one small mistake cracked a 7-year silence and turned the perfect crime into a ticking clock. Watch part 3 to see how the FBI finally broke through. The first real crack in the Brinks robbery case didn't come from technology, fingerprints, or new evidence. It came from human weakness. For nearly 7 years, the men behind the robbery had done the impossible. They stayed silent. They stayed disciplined. They stayed invisible. The money remained hidden, untouched, waiting for the statute of limitations to expire. But silence is heavy, and eventually, it crushes the people who carry it. Joseph Specs O'Keefe had always been the weakest link, even if no one realized it at first. Unlike the others, O'Keefe struggled to maintain the quiet, ordinary life they had all agreed to live. He drank more than he should have. He talked more than he should have. And most importantly, he needed money. The FBI noticed the change. Agents had been watching O'Keefe quietly for years. They followed him to bars, tracked his movements, and listened carefully to the people he associated with. At first, there was nothing concrete, just rumors, just behavior. Then slowly, the story started to change. O'Keefe began hinting that he knew something big. He bragged when he drank. He complained about money he couldn't spend. He spoke in half sentences, believing no one was truly listening. But the FBI was listening. One night, during a casual conversation, O'Keefe made a mistake. He referenced details about the Brinks robbery that had never been released to the public. It was small, easy to miss, but it was enough. From that moment on, surveillance intensified. Phones were monitored. Meetings were tracked. Every word O'Keefe spoke was analyzed. The agents knew they were close, but they needed proof. Then came the break. In 1956, O'Keefe became desperate. Financial pressure mounted, and his discipline collapsed. He contacted an associate and attempted to access hidden Brinks money. That single act shattered 7 years of careful planning. The FBI followed. They watched as hidden cash was moved. They documented every step. And when they finally searched one of the storage locations, they found what they had waited years to see. Brinks money. Serial numbers matched. Records confirmed it. The perfect crime was no longer perfect. Once the money was found, everything changed. O'Keefe was confronted with the evidence. The silence that had protected him for years now worked against him. He realized something terrifying. The statute of limitations was close, but not close enough. Under pressure, O'Keefe broke. He didn't confess everything at once. He tested the waters, gave names slowly, offered locations carefully. But with every word, the FBI's picture became clearer. The robbery wasn't the work of ghosts. It was the work of men who had trusted each other too much. As names surfaced, agents quietly began building cases. They didn't rush. They didn't arrest immediately. They waited, just like the criminals had. Because now time was working for the law. The men who believed patience would save them had made one fatal miscalculation. They forgot that patience cuts both ways. And as dawn broke over Boston, arrest warrants were being prepared. Surveillance teams were reassigned. And the quiet lives the robbers had built were about to collapse. The perfect crime had survived 7 years, but it wouldn't survive 8. In the next part, the arrests begin, and the truth finally comes out in public. Watch part 4 to see how the FBI moved in and ended America's most famous robbery.